We're back on the air, and my name is Jeffrey Davis. This is Radio Entrepreneurs. And Peter, glad to have you back again.
Jeff, as always, it's great to be here, whether it's as a host or a co-host or a guest.
Great. Well, Peter, I know you were sitting in the back room, the blue room we'll call it today, preparing for this interview. You brought a big book with you. You brought your notes. What's the topic?
Well, the topic today is actually a little different from the topics I usually carry. I want to talk about a novel I wrote. My novel's called Heroes in a Different Time. It's set in the early part of the Vietnam War.
Right.
And there are really two protagonists. One is a young naval pilot who goes to Vietnam, gets himself transferred to Vietnam to prove himself because his father was a hero in World War II. And the other character is a woman who is a doctor who collaborates with the Viet Cong.
An American doctor?
An American doctor.
Who's stationed in Vietnam?
Stationed in Vietnam.
Who collaborates with the Viet Cong.
With the Viet Cong.
Wow.
And
interesting twist.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. And the the storyline basically is she collaborates with the Viet Cong because she's been taking care of young children, and the war, even that early on, is damaging them, terribly. And so she agrees to collaborate with the Viet Cong to help them. She's stationed at the U.S. consulate in Saigon, and she agrees to collaborate and help with an attack on the U.S. consulate.
Wow.
And her name is Jenny Duval.
French name.
French name. Her father was French and was stationed in Vietnam. The protagonist, the male protagonist, his father was a hero in World War II also. So this is a story which jumps between...
Do they fall in love?
Yeah, eventually. I mean,
They fall in lust?
No, this is not a lust story, at least not about them. I have other lust within the novel, but it's what happens, and the jumping off point is that the male protagonist lands in Vietnam, and he's going to see his best friend at the consulate. And he walks straight into the attack. And during the attack, he thinks he saves Jenny from the attack, when in fact she's been, working to help create it. And during the attack, she kills the American captain who is in charge of security at the consulate. And so she never meant to do that. I mean, this is kind of the story of the law of unintended consequences. And then into the story appears a Saigon detective who is determined to capture Jenny. He believes that she was the operative who was the spy. And because it's clear that they needed that the Viet Cong needed a spy within the consulate. Over the next year, Nick and Jenny keep colliding. They keep running into each other in different places. Fate. But what is really fairly unique about the story, there are a bunch of very well-written Vietnam experience stories. What is fairly unique is that there are a whole bunch of Vietnamese characters who become very serious characters within the novel, who have exactly the same problems with vengeance. Something has happened to them, to cause them to be vengeful. And they have the same issues as the American characters. And what I was trying to do with this novel was sort of balance the two cultures and sort of frame it as, what war really does to people. And, so my first chapter, and I'd kind of like to read a little bit of the first chapter. It starts out, 3 troop transport trucks lumbered along a narrow 1,000-year-old dirt road. A brown scar ripped through a premortal green jungle. Sergeant Sam Fox pressed his hips against the back of the lead truck's cab and braced his hands on its blistering roof. The metal burned his fingers, but he barely noticed. The thick tangle of trees and vines rolling by only feet away made Sam dizzy, made him feel like he were being swallowed by some gigantic monster being devoured. Never-ending jungle made him feel small, inconsequential, as if his existence had little meaning. Were Viet Cong waiting in the shadows. He had come to this beautiful but out-of-control country because of a deeply felt patriotism to save the world, but he no longer cared. Perhaps as a result of seeing too many legs and arms torn from bodies by explosions and bullets. His desire to be in Vietnam had leaked away just like blood pouring from a deep, ragged wound. Now he wondered if anyone could save him. Did anyone care about him, and what did he care about anymore?